My name is Miss Elgiva Rynjah, the youngest female candidate to be contesting this upcoming General Meghalaya Legislative Assembly 2023.
I'm Vincent 55 years old.
My name is Avner Pariat. I am the Voice of the People candidate from 16 East Shillong.
I decided to contest this 2023 elections. 12 years I'm into my political domain under the guidance and mentoring by our Honorable Leader of Opposition, Dr. Mukul Sangma. I'm very happy that I got the platform from the Trinamool Congress to contest from this very cosmopolitan constituency, 17 North Shillong. As I've seen the past 8 years under the leadership of Dr. Mukul, we have seen a lot of development. But then 51 years of our statehood, we still lack a lot of development in our state. As a youth of the state, of the country, I feel it's my responsibility to lead my youth of the state and also the country, because we need to have a brighter future.
I've seen that most of our people fighting the elections is for personal benefits for the business. When they want to fight election, the same MLA will be a MLA, a minister, and the same family will be a contractor. So the intention is not to serve the people. But if you look in this, very few politicians are ready to serve the people. My intention is that to see that, especially in Giant Hills, we have the richest minerals in terms of limestone in Asia. In terms of deposits and in terms of coal, we have the best quality of coal in the world. And also, if you see in terms of hydro, we have lots of opportunities in hydro also. So I thought that if I fight election, I can make an attempt to utilize all these untapped potential in my constituency, when we can give employment, when we can help the poor people, and at the same time it's an area where there's no development. It's in the border of Assam and the border of Bangladesh. So if you see the road condition is horrible, if you see the school conditions horrible, and if you see even the people are so poor, I think the poorest people in Meghalaya are in my constituency. With that intention in mind, if I'm given a chance, why not try to serve the people with dedication, commitment, and why not help people to see that at least they can see the light of the days in a simple way or in a small way, if I can contribute for the people of my state and people of my constituency.
I think there's a very big problem with how things are being run in this state. Really, I have not been very enthusiastic, I think like many in my generation, with the type of leadership that we've seen. Because, as far as we are concerned, politics has always been to transform, to change people's lives, but this has not happened in a very long time. And I've been back in Shillong for a decade now, and I have tried many things while I was in Shillong, and I really have to say that the type of leadership, I'm not talking only political leadership, even the bureaucratic leadership, for example, has been quite underwhelming. I feel like they're not looking at the future, The whole country has moved forward, the whole world is moving forward, but we in Shillong, we are happy to still be living in 1971 or something like that.
My vision for the state of Meghalaya is to eradicate poverty, ensure a brighter future of all the youths, of all the women, of all the people of Meghalaya, to have better standard way of living, better standard way of working, and they should have access to every government work that we have to do, access of schemes, access of various sectors, because I feel sometimes the people of Meghalaya have less access, less knowledge. So it is our responsibility to also guide the people of Meghalaya. If we know there are certain schemes for the disabled, certain schemes for the poor, certain schemes for various sectors, we should educate them, we should allow them to participate, then we can also grow together. So I had put up certain factors, certain vision to prove like a written statement between me and my electorates. So I have pledged to ensure that self-help group has to be created in and around the constituency to uplift the women of the society, to help them in selling their products, their ideas, their strategies, whatever they have in their mind, and to promote them. And we have also ensured to have free coaching, examination centers to help the youth of the constituency and the state so that they can go and compete in different sectors, because people have their dreams, but sometimes the dreams are being shattered due to lack of capacity. We require the youth to come out, not to be deprived at home. We have to promote our indigenous culture, because we have forgotten our culture also at times. So we have to ensure the culture, the heritage of Meghalaya has to be uplifted once again.
So number one vision for the state is we should stop corruption. If we stop corruption, we can give employment. If we stop corruption, then we can do away with all the drugs abuse and everything. If we stop corruption, then only we can minimize the gap between the rich and the poor. The gap between the rich and the poor become wider and wider. That gap has to we have to minimize. It should be lower and lower. So it's very important for us to stop the corruptions, and whatever we can do, we have to give employment to our youth. If we can give employment to our youth, there's a scope for us also to grow faster and faster. And as of now, lots of our youths have been migrating from the state to other states. That's a concern for us. The brain drain is very high. So the state will do well if we have a good brains.
Well, everyone has a vision, right? Everyone has an idea which they want to push. I think for me personally, I want the state to be forward-looking. I don't want us to be isolationists. I want us to reap the fruits of the country, of the world. I really would love to be able to see that our people, whether they're from Maukarwat or from Rynjah or from Nong Talang, all the way to Phulbari or Songsak, all these places, I want them to be able to be confident, to not be scared of the world. I want them to be able to reach out to the world and grab it. You know, I want that this government or governments that come into power, that they should inspire our people, empower them with the tools and the knowledge to be able to be one with the world, to be able to access the world, to be able to make use of it, to be able to grow. Because the rest of the country has left us far behind. We are still so far behind. And I want our people not to be scared anymore. I think that is my vision, that there has to be a complete transformation in education, in business. We have to join it. I mean, staying here in Meghalaya alone, we realize now how far back we are, how isolated. And I don't think most people want that. I think a lot of people want to be able to be on equal terms with the rest of the world. And I think a good government, a government that thinks about people, tries to help people, I think it will be able to empower them that way.
I feel a big burden within myself when I look at my fellow women. Most of them are just sitting and cooking at home. They may have good ideas within themselves, but we are not promoting them. The government is quiet on the women. We know that Meghalaya is a matrilineal society. We should allow the women of the society, the women of Meghalaya, to come out, to promote and help them to have a sustainable life. We should be well equipped with the art of technology. We have to start living in the world where we have access to digitization in terms of every respective field. So when we talk about education, even in the rural or the urban, they should have digital computerized education in the respective government schools or private schools. We should ensure that every work, every field that we do, it's being digitized. And we should see that infrastructure in Meghalaya has to grow. Because if we do not have proper infrastructure in the state of Meghalaya, where would employment come from? Unless if we have infrastructure tourism, and many other work aspects that we can bring a lot of employment. Let's not get into only government job.
Biggest challenge for us is we should minimize the gap between the rich and the poor. When the rich and the poor, when the gap is very high, you see in Bihar, the gap between the rich and the poor is very high. There's a law and order problem. In Nagaland, the rich and the poor, the gap is very high. Unemployment is more than 25%. And if you see even in any other states where you have the gap between the rich and the poor, the law and order problem, so no investment. So our state, we should see that all this should stop. I see that as a good sign. Why am I saying good sign? Lots of people has come up. Lots of NGOs also are crying. Whether some of them, I don't say all NGOs are saint or all NGOs are corrupted, but many of the NGOs are doing very well. Like Bosco Rich are doing very well. Lots of NGOs run by the church, lots of NGOs run by civil societies, they are doing very well. So I could see that our community as a whole, we are good people, hardworking people, intelligent, smart people. I could see we should do well, provided we can get a good governance.
I think a lot of young people nowadays are less selfish. I mean, that's me thinking about it. I think they're less selfish, they're more compassionate, they're more reasonable, rational, less conservative. Of course, not as much as I would like ideally, but they are becoming like that. I've seen that there's been a very big change in how young people nowadays think about the world. Earlier, you couldn't even talk about certain ideas or certain concepts, but now you can, because they've accepted it. It's been part of their upbringing also. So definitely younger people are much more accepting of change. They want different things in life. They now want the state to grow. They don't want to just grow just their own net worth. But again, I mean, you know, we still have a very long way to go.
I think it's a wrong perception that we totally depend on the center. Whatever we get from the center, you know, out of the total collections of the center in tax, 41% of that has to be given to all states. In Meghalaya, I've seen in the records for the last 10 years, we don't get a single money where they give us grant. What it is the state's share. For example, like when the Congress government was in power, 25,000 crores money was given to Arunachal for building of a trans highway. And like that is called a grant. But till now I've seen lots of flagships program from the central which have been normally given to the state. That has been stopped. If you see the NLCPR, if you see the NEC fund, if you see other schemes are not used properly. So I think we should not, that is the wrong perception. It's the right of the people. I think it's the due which the state government has to should get from the center. It's not that they're giving free, or it's not that we're totally depending on them. They collect from the state, they are supposed to give back to the state. So I think it is a wrong perception, we have to depend on them. I think the best we should do is we should encourage tourism. Tourism, number one, we have the most beautiful place on earth. I'm lucky enough to see all over the world. I see that there's no place as beautiful as Meghalaya. The place is beautiful. Number two, the people are very nice. People are educated. People are also very helpful. They have that helpful attitude. So that I think is very well we can do in tourism, and also textile we can do well, like Bengal, and even in Bangladesh. If we can take a proper policy. Because our people are small, our hands are small, we'll be very good in sewing in terms of using for textile. The best for our people will be for sewing, and at the same time is for textile. These are two areas we have to look. In horticulture, in agriculture we can do, and where we can have a medicinal hubs in certain areas. These are the areas we can have a look on it, but then we can have a value added on the products. Well, we have the best turmeric in the world. We have a very good ginger. We have so many things which are very good. That we must have a value added on this issue. And the worst, I think, we should not encourage like coke factory, where people will be, there'll be lots of pollution that will convert into cancer. They may get a short-term money, but at the same time, it's difficult for you to survive, to breathe even.
In my opinion, it's very clear there are certain revenue generating sectors which have been really destroyed over the last 10-20 years. Power has, as I said earlier, power is a very, very important sector. There's huge power cuts throughout the rest of the country. in summer months. We are losing so much opportunity to supply them that power because the board and the corporation have become so corrupt. They are infected with corruption. My first duty as a citizen of this state is to fight for the cleaning up of the electricity corporation. You can see that there's so much money that center is pumping in, yet we are not able to generate any revenue. We just keep going back to them every year, asking more money. The amount of money we've spent in the last 10 years on infrastructure, I think we should all be having like world-class roads, world-class hospitals, and yet these things just keep collapsing, like the dome in Assembly, that interstate bus terminal. So all these things show that money is there, money is coming in, but if we really don't weed out corruption, we'll never be able to stop our decline. We'll always have to keep going to Delhi. There are so many sectors, as I was saying, power, agriculture, maybe to a certain extent education, even though I'm not 100% convinced on that, even with tourism the same. But power and agriculture can push us forward and can create a lot of jobs and opportunities. But again, you need the right people in the position. If you look at the whole state in general, we have no manufacturing. Our service sector is very, very underwhelming, underemployed. A lot of young people have very bad salaries. That needs to be corrected, because we are talking about companies coming here who are not small, but they're paying people like 9,000, 8,000 rupees per month. That can't be accepted. The government has to take a firm stance on that, because they are coming here for money. Companies like Amazon, Swiggy, Zomato, Rapido, all that, they're multi-billion-dollar companies, but they can't afford to pay 10,000 rupees per month. I can't accept that, because they're not here for charity, as I said. They're here to do business, and they have obligation to pay people well. That is one thing. In the private sector, I do believe that on that same note, that we also have to grow our own private sector. It has to be indigenous. Very few people are concentrating on that. I think a lot of people talk very generically about things, but legislators have to transform the private sector in a meaningful way, so that we are able to create avenues for employment. See, we've never talked in this state about creating employers. The only employers that we have ever thought of have been the government. Now the government can't take on board everyone, and I don't think it should also. It's not wise. But the government, as you can see in other states, they create the conditions for private sector to grow, and then they create big employers who employ a lot of people. Then revenue can also come in from them through taxes and so on. So that is one transformation in the economy that has to happen, and it has to be across party lines. It can't just be VPP talking about it. I think if we talk about the usual sectors that people are talking about, like for example tourism, a lot of people have talked about a lot of things. Again, how do we generate revenue from tourism? I'm seeing that a lot of tourism in Meghalaya is actually concentrating in a bubble, because it's just a few players who are getting all the government money actually, and they're not creating employment actually. They're creating contract work, which is very different from being an employer. So that on tourism, that's one thing. Then for example, power sector, again, we could have made so much money, but there's so much corruption. Every government that comes into power, I don't know why they can't leave power sector alone. If they left the power sector alone, as we can see, they are making money, they are generating a revenue. So it can pay back over time, over a few years, it can pay back the huge debt. But it needs to be completely guarded and protected from these corrupt officials and legislators who come into power. If we did that, I think we could power the economy a bit more aggressively. And finally, on the front of education, for example, education here has been a complete nightmare. I mean, primarily, in my opinion, because we concentrate too much on the schools which are which are privately held. Schools which my constituency is very famous for. But the rest of the state, the government schools have just been totally have just been totally neglected.
As of now, our state, as I've told you, we have the richest in minerals. Even like limestone, we have the highest deposits even in Asia. Coal, we have the best quality even in the world. So as on today, I'm also in mining. As on today, every truck of coal, the state is supposed to get not less than 60,000 a truck. But the present MDA government, through corruption, they charge them 95,000 a truck. That doesn't go to the government. It goes only 10,000 to the government, and the rest 85,000 goes to somebody's pocket. That's only coal. There are 3,000 trucks every day. Same limestone. There are not less than 10,000 trucks of limestone goes every day. In cement factory alone, 55,000 tons of limestone goes every day. Even in the border, like different lands custom stations in the border. So if you look in those, the state is supposed to collect a revenue from limestone alone around 3 crores per day. So in 250, almost 800 crores a day, they're supposed to collect revenue. They're supposed to collect the different like cess. They're supposed to collect different form of taxes. So same coal also. They supposed to get at least 5 to 6 crores every day. Liquor, they're supposed to get at least 3 crores every day. From petrol pumps and from whatever you sell in the market, you're supposed to get around 5 crores every day. If you combine all those things, lot of wastage and lot of inefficiency in terms of collections. So if you stop those leakage, then we can bring employment, then we can call the investment, because when you want people to invest, you must give them facilities. You have to give them uninterrupted supply power. You have to give them a good law and order. You have to give them a good place where they've got connectivity, like internet connectivity, road connectivity, better facilities, better than other states. The policy should be better than other states. Then only people come and invest. So that will stop people migrating from one state to another, and rather will bring a good investment. Then only we can overall progress and better than other states. It's doable. If you see Telangana, if you see Andhra Pradesh, if you see even in Tamil Nadu. So the only way is we have to convert our state into a manufacturing hub. That is possible only if we have a proper government, proper policy and free corruption state.
I remember a few years ago, I was reading this financial, I think it was from the CAG or some other organization, or was it sales tax? It might have been sales tax, where they showed how much money Assam gets per year and how much money Meghalaya gets per year in terms of taxes collected. What was very revealing about that work was that you could see very clearly that most of Assam's money comes in from tea and other resources which are sustainable and renewable. Meghalaya was the second largest tax collector, tax donor, and most of its revenue came through extractive industries, which is coal and limestone. It was second in the whole of the Northeast. Nothing to be proud of when you think that when you dig up all those mountains, when you dig up that entire resource, there's nothing left. Right? It's not sustainable. We have to think like Assam. Like Assam's, most of its wealth has come in through agriculture and allied sectors. So every year that stuff grows back. So every year they're making that money. Once that coal and limestone's gone, or uranium, what do we actually have left? We'll have a vast ecological catastrophe which we will have to spend crores to clean up. We will have to spend on the health care that those people will have to go through. So there are many, short-term goals which people look at. I think that like a resource like uranium in a place like Meghalaya, with the type of corruption we have, it would be a catastrophe, I think, because you will have people start bringing in uranium in plastic bottles or something like that, because everyone would want to have a share, and then you can just pay off the cops, pay off the commissioner, pay off this, pay off that. So it would be a complete disaster. You'll have people carrying uranium around in their cars, selling it on the streets. So, like, I mean, of course, I'm exaggerating, but I think, you can understand my point. I mean, I think it's better to concentrate on sustainable sources of revenue.
Well, I would be very happy if we have private sector coming up. As we can see nowadays, a government job is very difficult to get into it. So personally for myself, if we have businessmen, businesswomen who are from our own beautiful state, they should have, if they have the capacity, they should ensure that each and every youth will be getting a job in their respective domain, whatever they have the business entity. For example, I myself belong to a hospitality sector. For example, if my family happens to open a hotel, I would automatically allow the youth of Meghalaya first to be involved, educate them. They may not have that level of hospitality education, but if we give them proper trainings, they are not dumb people. Our youth are very brilliant. They can learn within 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months on job training, and immediately we can promote them. So there are many sectors in Meghalaya that we can promote, but the saddest part of Meghalaya, there are too many dalals, Bitnami. So we should eradicate all this. Let we the local be somebody and help our respective locals to uplift.
See, number one, for private people to come here, number one, law and order is very important. Number two, like I've told you, our policy should be better than other states' policies. Number three, we must have a stable power supply. For that, then we need to generate more and more power. Then we give employment, we give also them a proper electricity. If we have a proper electricity at affordable rates, automatically industries will come. Private, or it may be a government PSUs also. So you should bring not only the private investment, but we can bring government PSUs. I have seen many government PSUs were doing very well in the different states. For example, like Maruti. One car I think is not less than 200 parts to build, right from headlight to shock absorber to tires. So if we can bring one part for manufacturing in Meghalaya, there's be a big change. And aircraft. And every aircraft I think is more than 2,800 parts, if I'm not mistaken, is there. If we can bring one part of the manufacturing in Meghalaya, then bring a big change all over the northeast. For like that, be it in Maruti, be it Honda, be it anywhere, if we can bring a part of that here, be it in software, we can nowadays one big change is that the data center. Meghalaya is very cold, and for data center I think you need a very cold areas. So to make the area cold, then you need lot of electricity. So Meghalaya by nature is already cold. So we can convert Meghalaya into a data center hub. Lots of people will come and invest here, and data center investment, huge investment. Minimum investment will be not less than 500 to 1,000 crores, and we'll get all the efficient people to manage that, and you'll get all the competent people to manage. And we have people whom we can train, and we have people whom we can work together. I think that's also is very important.
See, many people say that it's because of land laws that companies don't want to come in. This is not true. I mean, companies don't need to own the land to work on it. Of course, they feel more secure if they can own it. But we can see that it hasn't stopped different companies from coming into the state. This is just an excuse that's given out by a few people in order to demand for the repeal of the Land Transfer and Regulation Act. I've never supported that type of claim. Of course, people misunderstand a lot of things when I have private conversations when I talk like this, because they think that, oh, I will demand the repeal of the Land Transfer and Regulation Act, which is nonsense. It can't be done also. And neither should we want it to be done. I think one thing that we can do in order to encourage private sector is that we need to actually develop our own skill sets here also. We need to ensure that our people get a fair share in the fruits of that enterprise, because right now, as you can see, even very, very big companies cement, for example, the cement industry. If you really look at how much they're paying the local people, it's really peanuts, you know. So it's not fair. Just because you've acquired a multi-crore, piece of tract of land, for you to go digging and exploiting that resource, you also owe other things to those people in that area. The multinationals, like a few of them who have come in here, they're more or less okay. There's still some room for negotiation. But a lot of the Indian companies that come in here, and they're big, they're very big companies, they come in here extremely exploitative. I mean, I've heard some of the salaries they pay people. It's really ridiculous. Nobody fights for them. So obviously that will create a very bad kind of message about what private players can do, what companies can do here. I also believe that a strong cooperative sector can lead to the emergence of a company or companies in Meghalaya that can provide a lot of employment, especially based in and around agricultural sector. I think that is something we should really look at. Again, companies should not mean that one or two people benefit who are at the top. It should be everyone, because they're all working hard trying to get things happening. But they will not work hard if they start seeing that the guy on top is making 10 lakhs per month and then they are not even getting 10,000. So people are not dumb. They think about these things. They will obviously support private sector if we work hard to make them understand why it's important, and also to ensure that they get a fairer share in the distribution of the profits.
I feel very sad to see my fellow youths, they have to leave the state of Meghalaya for finding better life, better job. I appreciate them also at the same time, because if they do not have a better future in our own beautiful state, they have to have the sustainable life. So they travel in around the state in the country to find a good life. But when we know we have a lot of abundance in our own state, it is the fault of the leaders who sits on the chairs in the government, who does not allow us to have a sustainable life. Had it been that they allow us, they fill the vacancy, they promote us, they show the way in different sectors, different areas, we can see that from central government, I have read a lot of schemes are there. But why they are so scared if the future generations have the sustainable life? We look at a lot of self-made entrepreneurs we need to have. Not about only government job, but they are not being promoted because nobody shows them the way. That's why in my personal policy statement, I have put one important point. We call it a quick short form, which means that we address quickly to the problem of the citizen of this very constituency. Suppose, for example, if a young man or young woman have ideas or they find any problem, we are going to be there to address their problem immediately and take up the issues. And if I have my young fellow friends who would want to start up a business, we have to help them, because there's schemes from the central government to help and promote them. If they're good in making any manufacturing things, why not promote them? We see that yes, the youth, some of them are self-made entrepreneurs, are being recognized, but not everybody. But we have to ensure each and every one gets an opportunity. We should not have nepotism. But Meghalaya is full of nepotism. The favorites would get. The families of the high-ends would get. But we, the party of Trinamool Congress, will eradicate nepotism. Then the youth of Meghalaya, the women of Meghalaya, the citizen of Meghalaya will have a brighter future.
So unemployment is the biggest issue. Until and unless we get investment, it's very difficult for us. That's why I'm saying, to get an investment, we must have a proper policy. To have a proper policy, we must have a stable government. To have a proper policy, we have people who have a vision, not people who have a vision for the family, not people who have a vision for the personal, but is a vision for the state. So unemployment is a big challenge, and it will be more and more in the future if we don't have a change, if we don't have people who can bring investment to the state. For example, every institutions, like when the Nigrims come, how many people are employed? When the NIF came, how many people have been employed? when a good road came to, like we have a good bypass, a good connectivity, Assam and Meghalaya, how many people have been employed? And the wear and tear is very less. So we should build infrastructure, we should build assets for the state, then only we can give employment. And we have also to concentrate on self-reliance, in a sense like, we should not only depend on the government job. We should see that also we help the government in building the infrastructure rather than wait everything from the government.
Unemployment is such a complicated issue, okay, throughout the whole state. As I said, a government should look at certain sectors to try to really raise the figures, in a positive trend. If you really look at what's happening in the state, there's a lot of underemployment. Unemployment is there, but the last statistics which came out, they showed that of course there was a lot of numbers that were hidden in the behind rural figures, but they said that the unemployment is actually not as bad as we thought it was. I think that was from Center for Monitoring the Indian Economy, if I'm not mistaken. The data came out. So there is a problem with underemployment in the urban sector, in the urban areas. Because you can see that there are companies, there are jobs, people are asking for all sorts of service sector jobs to be filled, but they're not paying them very well. Now I understand, like if you're a small business like a restaurant or hotel also, or a guest house, there are problems. You also are suffering, if the market is suffering. So the job of the government now is to infuse money into the economy, not just in infrastructural development, because that, as we can see, has been concentrated in the hands of just a few contractors, and that is what really needs to be broken. It can't just be for them. I don't think we need as much infrastructural development as all these governments have been trying to do. I think we really need to build good businesses that can employ people. That is where I would put the money into. I would put 110% of my efforts into building businesses that can employ people in a meaningful way, give them good salary, give them pension, maternity leave, paternity leave, all these things. Because when I was working outside, I got all those things, and I was working for a corporate, an evil corporation, but they were much better than the government of Meghalaya, which would pay you just a basic salary and nothing else.
See, as you know, we have the Khasi Autonomous District, the Garo Autonomous District, Jaintia Hills. See, we already have the district council. We should give power to the district council to safeguard our rights. But if we question the government of today, I think district council has no power. It looks as if the MDA government is running the district council too. So to ensure that Meghalaya is in the safe hands, we have to remove the corrupt ones. Because the corrupt ones was there in the government of the day. They have sold everything that belongs to Meghalaya. So it is the responsibility of myself, my citizen, to stand up for ourselves and fight against these people who tries to sell our rights. Because we are the minorities, we have been recognized by the government of India, by the constitution, so we have full rights to safeguard our indigenous tribe.
I think the best way to protect people is not really through conservation and preservation. And there's a lot of people, a lot of parties, a lot of groups that keep talking about indigenous rights, which is something that is exploited nowadays by many people to get brownie points during elections. The best way, in my opinion, to empower our people is to truly work so that their conditions are better than the people surrounding us. Then you can have an upward mobility where they have more money, they have more power, they have more assets, and then you will see that, in fact, as I say often, you will start seeing an outflux. You will not see an influx. It will be our people who go outside, not because of desperation, but because they want to explore. They want to set up their businesses, their units, their enterprises everywhere else in the country.